Hi. I know we're a little early, so I'm gonna wait for a couple of minutes. And oops, let me lower this, I think. Okay, so we'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll go ahead and start. In the meantime, my name is Dora DeBoer, and I'm a 5th grade bilingual teacher from Plano, Texas. And I think we have somebody here joining us. I have like 3 computers and my iPad and my phone. This is my first time doing this, so I am a little nervous, but we'll hope for the best. And just if there is something I don't answer or I don't cover, if you want to reach out and ask some questions, I'll be happy to help you or happy to answer if I can. If no, we'll figure it out. So my Twitter handle is .deboer1, and I'll have a link to the presentation also, so you can access the resources. 1 more minute. I know we have somebody watching, but I don't know who is there yet. Okay. Okay. I got that. This. I hope this works out. This is kind of weird, actually. I don't know who I'm talking to. I know somebody's watching, but I don't know who that is. Okay, we'll start. So again, my name is Dora DeBoer, and I'm a 5th grade bilingual teacher. This is actually my first year teaching 5th grade. I've been working in education in the United States for about 13 years or so, being a 1st grade bilingual teacher, 2nd grade bilingual teacher. I've worked with kindergarten through 2nd grade as an intervention specialist. I'm also an ELD teacher and trainer for the district. And this is my first year teaching 5th grade. So let me start with my presentation, because I will tell you a little bit more about my reality, the group of kids which I had this year, and how that having this particular group of kids kind of propelled me or directed me on taking this direction with technology and finding different ways to help them acquire vocabulary and language in general. So let me see. I think I have to share it here. Again, this is my first time, so I hope it works. I think I have to go here. Yeah, okay. Share. No, present. Okay. So I call this session Augmented Language with AR, and VR, because I use augmented reality apps and virtual reality apps to help my students develop that language. So this is one just for fun. Don't pay attention to that. So we're going to move on because we only have 15 minutes. So this is my situation. I work at a Title I school, mostly about 80% free and reduced meal. The program that we currently have is an early exit program. So students are expected to exit by around 2nd to 3rd grade once they acquire enough English and they are transitioning to general ed. So the goal for this program is to be basically to acquire literacy in English but not to sustain both English and Spanish. So by the time they come to 5th grade, most of these students had not met that requirement. Therefore, they come in with, whether they are conscious or not completely conscious of it, you know, most of their friends have left, and they are in the general classroom, so they are very, in some cases, not all of them, but in some cases, they are very passive, and there is not much self-confidence in their abilities, and they are very quiet. They do not talk much. They're very passive learners. So, oops. So that can be very difficult when you are trying to get them to engage or develop that language, because they have to talk in order to internalize the language. So most of them are not advanced high in TELPAS, which is our language assessment progress monitoring of language acquisition here in Texas. So we have to work very hard to develop the language as well as to master the standards. And that's my expectation. So in order to get them to do that, I need to build a very safe environment, a very supportive environment, learning environment, where they are willing to take the risks and just talk and be part of the process instead of just watchers. So this is how I found when I like technology a lot. My campus is very, very, very into technology and trying to teach and do things differently in a way that supports our students. So I tried this augmented reality and virtual reality apps, and they were phenomenal. So just to clarify, augmented reality, these are the typical definitions. Augmented reality is the ability to overlay digital context onto the real world. So you can scan, or you can use whatever is in your area as a trigger, and you can have a video and overlay being activated by whatever is in. It could be a drawing, or it could be a poster, or something in your immediate area. Virtual reality is mostly computer generated, although there are also apps, but it is a simulation. It puts the students in a real life sort of experience. So those two types of what is this? Apps. I'm sorry. These two apps, or these two resources, were we used a lot in the classroom this year. So why? Like I said, my why was, of course, they are very fun, but it also makes learning very interactive. Students are experiencing firsthand maybe the solar system, or how was a specific place that we are reading about in class. They have also the opportunity to create. So they apply what they already know into creating something. It helps them process concepts. So English learners need time to process, to understand, to really internalize the concepts as well as the language. So this gives them another way where they can use what they know, apply what they know, put everything together in creating or a product. It helps them visualize. So you'll see one of the apps that we use. It gave way better experience and access to a model. So it's not just a drawing of the solar system, but it's a 3D model where they could interact with different planets and pieces, and in a better, more descriptive, more realistic way. We also share this through our YouTube channel. So our classroom YouTube channel. So it's an opportunity for other people's for other people to see what the kids are producing, and when they get feedback from them, from sharing, well, it makes the quality of their responses and their products way higher. So, and finally, because it gives them a compelling reason to use academic language and the content. So that's by the way, this here is the on the bottom corner of the screen, you have the Google, you can have access a copy of this presentation if you wish to have it, to keep it. There are some resources that I think you might like. Now, the process I use, of course, has to be found or built around some research base. Something is not just, it didn't just come out of my mind, but I use the process of talk, read, talk, write for many of these lessons. And if you have not read this book, I highly recommend it, especially if you work with English learners. But it is also great for all learners. It was written by Nancy Motley, and it has tons of practical resources, and it's an amazing book. So I use that framework to build my lessons. I borrow her model, and I kind of integrated or added certain pieces. And there are also, I'm gonna give a shout out to the ELL Chat Book Club, because it is, if you're not following it, you should follow it. A lot of great educators share, just so selfishly, no, not selfishly, they share tons of resources, and it's a great resource to have. I also use the QSSSA, which is a structured way for students to participate and use academic vocabulary and language. And so Nancy Motley has this process where she is delivering the lesson, but putting it in the students' hands mostly. So it's not the teacher who is the one that is doing most of the talking or most of the thinking, but the student. So the first we talk, I'm just summarizing very quickly. First, the students, you give them, the teacher provides a prompt or a question, and that allows students to activate their prior knowledge or just wonder. So we start with the talking, then we give them something to read, so they access directly the content, and based on that, we have other guiding questions, so it allows them to have a second conversation when they are actually using the target language and the content and vocabulary. And then I added, in some cases, something that they had to build with Legos or with some of the apps, maybe a virtual reality field trip or an exploration. And then after that, a write. Sometimes these kind of alternate, maybe they write something, but most of the lesson, they write something first and then they explore or they create. But most of the lessons have, if not all of them, have some type of writing. So within one lesson, students are talking, listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So let me go to the next one. How do I start this process? Basically with the first thing that I looked at is our standards. In Texas, they are called the TEKS. So we start with the standards, and after that, I have to look at the ELLs, which are our language standards, to set up my language objectives. So the TEKS or the Texas standards gives us the what, the content, and the language. The ELLs gives us the how. How are they going to demonstrate that mastery of this content? So this is an example for social studies. The content objective was 5th grade. Explain when, where, and why groups of people explored, colonized, and settled in the United States, including the search for religious freedoms and economic gain. my language objective for this content objective, for this standard, was I can summarize the events occurred during the establishment of the Jamestown settlement using sequencing words. So these language objectives is supposed to support the learning of the accessing the content, and also mastering, being able to explain, to show their learning and their understanding. So I have to also include in all of my lessons structured student conversation, opportunities for them to process the content, either doing my turn, your turn, where they are actually echoing everything I'm saying, the target language. Sometimes you might, since I only taught kinder, first and second grade, I kind of thought at the beginning that maybe it would be, kind of babyish to ask my students to echo me, my fifth grade students to echo me. But no, it's actually very powerful, because then they know exactly what is the language, what is the target. So you have to find ways to get them engaged and to do it in different voices, or maybe with themselves, but with each other. But it is not, they are not too old to do my turn, your turn. AB partners, QSSA, like I said, like I mentioned before, and this I added the she said, he said, which is something that Katie Topol, another fantastic teacher from Twitter and from the ELLs chat book club, shared. So that's another variation of the QSSA. Lines of communications, I always do, and then 1 minute debates. Those I do other ones, but these are my to-go strategies, and to get them talking, and they know the procedure, they know the process, so it's easier now to just go into those, and they know what to do and what the expectation is. How do another way in which I support this is by providing sentence frames, and sentence frames that support the content objective or the standard. So, and another thing about sentence frames is different entry levels, not just providing one level, for everybody, but because in the classroom I have intermediates, advanced high. So these color-coded sentences kind of signal that, and I also have a symbol here. So these are different entry levels. In the classroom, we call them level 1, level 2, level 3, and they are welcome to use level 1 if that's the only that's the ones that they feel comfortable. But they are also challenged to use other levels, and they are aware of what levels and which one is the target. So I provide that for the conversations as well. They don't always have to use this. This is a resource they have available in case they need it. When it's time to write, the same thing. I provide sentence frames or paragraph frames, and again the same thing by level. So they have a variety of. They are exposed to different levels and not only doing the same level every time. This is another example of Google Expedition. If you have not used Google Expedition, it's an app. Is available for in iPad, and I think right now just in iPads. But for this lesson, students talked about the Jamestown after with the colonies, and then we read one of our books about the 13 colonies in Jamestown, and then we have some questions, so they did some student interaction routines to talk about what they read after we did our whole guided reading lesson. And then they did a virtual reality field trip to Jamestown through using Google Expeditions. And the cool thing about Google Expedition is that it has questions by levels. So if your school allows it for you to be the lead and then they are the explorers, you can actually customize the sentences. I'm sorry, the levels of the questions. They give you already a little summary of what you are seeing, the different scenes, and again, it puts the students right there to experience what they just read about, and they are able to make connections. They are able to recognize, and immediately the level of engagement and the conversation just rises. After we did this exploration, students wrote, and this was our first try at the beginning of the year with this process. So this was more like they did it in groups. So I'm gonna play a little bit of this video.
English settlements in North America. The English arrived there in 3 big ships. They settled next to the James River and they founded the colony of Virginia. They decided to build a fort along the James River in the Central River. They were not used to work and soon ran out of food. Soon after their arrival, they realized a powerful Native American group inhabited the area. The leader of this group was named Powhatan. Conflict began when the Powhatans attacked some English scouting the area. The settlers attacked back with firearms and raided their homes for food. The problem continued until the marriage of Pocahontas and John Rolfe.
After that first trial, we use those videos to give each other feedback. So that was another powerful opportunity. This is another app, StoryFab, and StoryFab is also free. You can download it, and if you look on YouTube, you can see tutorials of how to use it. And I included some tutorials in this presentation too. So if you're making a copy of this for yourself, you'll have access to those as well. So this was about the middle colonies. They created their colonies in groups using Legos, and then they used the StoryFab app to bring it to life and make it a 3D through the app and record their writings. They wrote about describing their colonies and how life was back then in that specific colony, and the way they people work and their environment and everything. So again, another opportunity for them to use the language. I don't think I'm gonna be able to, I think we're running out of time. I'm not gonna play the videos, but if you can see here, they created the colony with the Legos, but then this boat and some of the characters and some of the other elements are through the StoryFab app. So I hope you try it. This is another one in science. This was the one that I was talking about earlier. The tick is the standard is very, very simple. It's just a level 1. I can identify the order of the planets, and the language for this tick was I can list the planets in order from the distance of their distance from the sun, using closest, third from the sun, farthest, etc. So what we did here, again, we supported with language with sentence frames, and this is the app is called the Merge Cube. So it's two pieces to this. The cube actually is like $5 or $6 on Amazon or on Walmart right now. You can do it on online on the website, Walmart website, and you can buy it there, and then you download the app. A lot of the apps are free. So this one is the Explore, is called, for the solar system, is free. So students we read about them, we practice the language. This is using lines of communications. Everybody has their lines, their write what they wrote, and then they use the app to describe using the target language. So I'm gonna play just a little bit of this.
The sun is the center of the solar system. The planets and the moon orbit around the sun. It takes 365 days to Earth to orbit the sun. It takes 24 hours to Earth to orbit its axis.
So that's the merge cube. So don't you should definitely check it out. There are other applications. There are ones for the body, biologies, the human organs. There are different ones, dinosaurs too. This one, it's another one where I did, what is that called when you put two apps together? App smash or smash app or something like that. I can't remember. But it's when you, I use the Aurasma. It was formerly known as the Aurasma app, and now it's called, I think it's called, I can remember, HR, I think it is. And but if you Google Aurasma app, it will give you this symbol. They relaunched it, rebranded it. But it is amazing. It's super awesome. And I use Duo Ink for the green screen. We have a green screen permanently set in the classroom where they use the Erasmus app that apply they did a drawing of the solar system, but then they recorded their video using the green screen, and they applied that recording. They overlaid it on their trigger image, their drawing. So whenever you scan the image, the video pops up. It is super, super cool. And again,
the solar system has 8 planets. The sun is the center of the solar system. There is one planet called the dwarf planet. Its name is called Pluto. The sun is a star in medium size.
Anyways, they did everything. They learned how to use the app. They learned how to set up the green screen. They wrote their lines, and again, using the language. These are some additional ideas. They can create or retell a story. They can explain the steps in a process. They can describe a location, create 3D models in science. They can do interactive word walls with their Erasmus app. Oh, the what is it called? HR. They can use it to explain vocabulary words, biographies. If you Google AR or VR in the classroom, there are tons and tons of ideas that you can borrow and use in your classroom. These are the tutorials. This is for the Erasmus app, the Story Fab. This is for the green screen in the Google Expedition. So if you are making a copy of this presentation, which is right here, like I said, you'll have access to all of these resources. These are the apps again. If you want to try it, just download the apps, start playing, and if you have any questions or you want me to help you, walk you through, or share something, just send me a message at Dodeboard1. So I don't think there is any questions here. Is there anybody has any questions? You can do it. You can write it on the chat. I don't think there are any questions in the chat. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and keep enjoying whatever we have left of Math PD. I don't know what I have.